Hi folks, this is Travis and welcome to a very special edition of the Uplink. Many of you know me as Teague on our Discord channels or from our weekly Helium Hacks Happy Hour. I serve as Developer Growth Lead here at Helium. So today we have the team from over at Ubidots joining us to talk about the brand new pre-built Helium Console integration. And this is truly a fantastic set of functionality, and I know everyone here is going to be pretty impressed with what you're able to achieve. So, welcome folks. Thank you very much for being here with us today. Do you mind, before we get started, kind of giving everyone a quick personal intro?
Hello everyone, thanks Travis and everyone for being here. My name is Agustín, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ubidots, or how I like to tell our team, by day I'm the CEO, but night I'm also a maker like most of us. And this is the exact reason why I wanted to be involved in the design and the development of this plugin, because as you will see in a minute, it touches a lot of pieces of our platform. So I'm very excited to share this with you today, and I hope you enjoy it as much as we have enjoyed building it. Thank you.
Hey folks, I'm Benjamin. I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for joining. I'm a full stack engineer and I'm also the product manager and the lead developer for the plugins. And I'm super excited to present it to you today. And I hand over to Cristina.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cristina. I'm Business Development and Partners Manager. This is by far the most exciting collaboration we've been working on in the past couple of months. So thank you all for being here. I'm personally grateful to see you. So let's just start, and I hope you have fun.
It's great to have you here on the Uplink, and looking forward to your demo. Before I hand this over, I'd like to give everyone a quick overview of what Helium is all about, and then Ubidots will walk us through the details on the new integration, and followed by a demo. Then we'll have a short Q&A session toward the end of the webinar. But feel free to go ahead and post any questions to the chat here, and we'll make sure that all of those are addressed. In addition, all the Uplink episodes are uploaded to our Helium YouTube channel, so please make sure to check that out on the playlist and catch up on anything you may have missed. So, what is Helium? I know a lot of people have ended up here from different directions, blockchain, crypto, as well as Internet of Things and LoRaWAN. So just to make sure we're all on the same page here. Helium was founded around the idea that IoT was doing things wrong. And I'm paraphrasing just a bit here, but our founders felt that it was too difficult, expensive, convoluted just to get sensor data to the users, which is pretty much what the Internet of Things is all about, right? And we were very fortunate to have been backed by some of the most reputable VC firms in the world. And through that support, we've built what you see now as the People's Network. And this was created by the users themselves becoming the telcos. There is no mob bell in place here. This is a network that was built by the people and is operated by the people. All of our core source code is available on our GitHub repos, and I strongly encourage you to pull these down and become involved. We have a very active developer community, and we love the support that this community has given us. So the Helium network is the world's first peer-to-peer wireless network that provides a secure and cost-effective way for Internet of Things devices to send data to and from the internet. It's private and secure, and so you have total encryption from the device to the cloud. We also have a number of third-party vendors that have been approved by the community and tested by Helium. We have hundreds of companies and thousands of developers that are already building on the People's Network, which is the world's largest and fastest growing LoRaWAN network. So swing on over to console.helium.com and get yourself an account, get yourself 10,000 free data credits that you can use with Ubidots right here. But at this point, I'd like to go ahead and pass the mic. I want to get some eyes on this new integration. Ubidots?
Yes. Thank you so much, Travis, for the intro. We're definitely Helium fans. So for all of you who might not be aware with Ubidots, let me just give you a very brief intro, and then we'll jump real quick to the integration. So we're basically an IoT application development platform. So from device-friendly APIs to clean UI to end users, we offer a whole set of backend and front-end tools for system integrators, OEMs, or these IoT entrepreneurs to be able to develop and launch entire IoT solutions without the need to hire a software development team, spend thousands of dollars, or time to market. So basically a little bit about where we come from. Since we've launched in 2014, we've been on a mission to enable the data-driven future today. So we offer 2 tiers. We have Ubidots STEM. This is our free platform that has forever free 3 devices. This is basically for non-commercial projects, academia makers, like, for instance, you want to brew your own beer at home. We've had more than 80,000 users in this tier, and we keep growing and nurturing our STEM platform and working to keep it free on that tier. On the other side, we have our commercial deployment, where we offer 4 different types of licenses. They're meant to fit almost any IoT project, whether you are prototyping. It starts at $49 a month, and then it goes to $199 when you can have your white label and your end users and more. You can check this out at ubidots.com/pricing. It's just public and very easy to understand. We have now more than 400 businesses that are using Ubidots in all sort of industries, manufacturing, healthcare, you name it, smart cities. So in a nutshell, we're just convinced about the creative and all this power that's out there in every corner of the world to solve local problems by using global tools. So that's what we're here for. So with no further ado, I'll leave you with Agustín. He's our CEO, and he has more than 10 years of hands-on experience in IoT. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christy and Travis. Following up with what Christy was saying, and one of the reasons I told you why I was so excited about building and designing this plugin or this integration together with the Helium team is that it touches a very important part of our application. It turns out last year we launched a new model called Ubidots plugins. We included a very simple way, we'll see in a minute, on how to include weather station data from external sources into Ubidots, water stream data, river levels, for example, from public APIs in the US. We integrated with Zapier, AWS IoT, even cryptocurrency or currency exchange APIs that at the end of the day, these are all time series that could perfectly enrich your IoT application. A bit after launch, we saw a great usage within our paid customers, but we also saw a lot of requests from our community saying, hey, we also love to have access to the plugins. We were a bit hesitant because it's based on a serverless environment that is costing us some pennies on every run, but a huge incentive to make Ubidots plugins public and free for all of our STEM community to use was our collaboration with Helium. Because as you will see in the demo, the way we achieve a very seamless integration by giving you the power to create your own API to decode your payloads at will is using Ubidots plugin. A bit of background on why we built this is, well, we are all used to the Internet of Things, smart devices changing entire industries and the way we work and live. But the Internet is also being made up of a lot of data sources that were not included in a lot of IoT applications. Think about a water scientist that goes every week to take a few samples in a river, take it back to the lab, and then analyze the turbidity or other more elaborated variables to measure. Well, we now have the Zapier plugin, which allows you to pull data very simply and programmatically from something like a spreadsheet. And also the Internet of APIs. There's a lot of services that already make the heavy lifting of aggregating ocean data, weather data, you name it, and also, well, LoRaWAN network servers, which all of these are third-party platforms that it only made sense to integrate in a simpler way than just making or having to code these by themselves in terms of our users. And finally, the Internet of Satellites as well. A lot of these services that we are exploring on integrating either for connectivity or even just for data sources are from using data that are coming from satellites, passing overhead every day or every week, that are taking measurements or on soil humidity, soil moisture, soil temperature, or even just the weather. So with Ubidots plugins, we're just getting started. We will add more and more plugins. So I'm very excited to see what all of you will build using these tools. To give you an example, this is how simple you can create a weather station. So here in this animation, I'm just clicking on the Redwood City in the US. And in just a few clicks, I was able to pull data like the equivalent to weather station data, just using external services. Temperature, dew point, pressure, wind speed, wind direction, etc. So this is how simple we want IoT to get. And that's why we, included Helium as one of the first plugins that we are working on in terms of LoRaWAN integration. And before I jump into the demo, I'm going to give it to Benjamin, who is one of the brains behind the curtain, who made it all possible. So Ben, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Agustín. So thanks for joining, guys. I'm very, very excited about this new plugin. But before we jump into the demo, I just want to give you a little bit more context and a little bit more insight, qualitatively, but also on the technical side. Now, before we actually started developing this plugin, we thought about 3 pillars that we want to integrate. Obviously, the first one is it should be easy for you guys. There should be as few steps as possible, and it should be as straightforward as possible to set it up. Now, while maintaining it simple, we also wanted to maintain customizability, which means that you have a custom decoder that is very powerful that I'm going to talk about in a second, and it helps you and empowers you actually to transform your data and to enrich it or to decode it simply. And lastly, we also wanted to have it the feature of being scalable. Now, for you guys that have maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of devices deployed in the field, you might know that it might be very tedious to copy paste device IDs or device labels. So I'm glad that I can tell you that Ubidots is taking care of that as we create a new device in your Ubidots account, including the variables, in case we receive data from a device that is not yet in your account. Now, how does the flow look like for you? You have your LoRaWAN devices deployed. They send data to the Helium gateway, right? And now when you set up, as Agustín is going to present in a second, when you set up the pre-built integration of Ubidots, data is automatically forwarded through a webhook to a Helium plugin in Ubidots that is seamlessly and very smooth created in your Ubidots account. And before it's actually posted to your Ubidots account and to your IoT application, you have the chance of decoding it. Now, I mentioned the powerful decoder. Why is it powerful? Because it uses actually the third most popular programming language, which is Python. Python is very, very straightforward in its syntax. And my personal experience, I just had it last week. I worked with a decoder which had an old version of Node, and I had to write my code in ES5. Now, I'm a little bit more used to ES6, so it took me some extra steps to convert that code, the syntax. But with Python, that's going to be an issue of the past. Now, Python is powerful, right? You're going to have the version 3.7, which benefits from a lot of the latest features. But I'm glad that we also baked in a lot of libraries out of the box. So we took it one step further. For example, if you receive data from the Helium platform, you can do requests on the fly. You can do a GET request in case you wanna pull in some data, or maybe you want to post your data to an analytics platform. At the same time, you can publish it through MQTT PAL, which is not a problem. Now, for you guys that use advanced computation, mathematics, or maybe you calculate the Fourier transforms, then we have you covered because we have NumPy, SciPy, and Pandas natively integrated. Now, one thing that I'm personally very, very excited about is we open the decoder to the whole universe of AWS, which means that whenever the webhook is triggered and data arrives at Ubidots, you can, for example, trigger a Lambda function. You can post your data to an RDS instance. You can post it to DynamoDB, to TimeStream. You might even add a simple if statement and trigger a notification in SNS in case the temperature is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, for example. We also have some utility libraries which are scrappy if you do website scraping. For those guys that use the air quality index, it's easy with that library with Python AQI to convert the AQI index value to parts per million or vice versa. And for those guys that know that programming with time zones, timestamps, and dates, it can be a pain. We have Arrow inside the container. So now I hand it over to Agustín for the live demo.
Well, thank you, Ben. Now, let's jump in. Now, for those of you who might not be familiar with Ubidots, this is our main architecture. It's all about devices that have variables, and each variable is simply a time series. It's what we call, well, dots. Thanks to our name, we call a dot is simply a data point that contains value, a timestamp, and a context, which could be any arbitrary key value pair that might appeal to the reading that you're taking in your sensor. Now, the problem the first design approach that we follow is, well, we saw our experience based on how some of you even published tutorials on how to integrate Helium with Ubidots using our Ubi Functions tool, which is a way to create your generic decoders, if you will. And we saw that mostly, and in general, in LoRaWAN network servers, we were using like a very limited size or portion of the payload that arrives from a LoRaWAN network server. So simply speaking, you might have used the dev EUI to create a unique identifier for the Ubidots device, and then you would take the payload to decode it into the variables that you want to measure. But what happens with the rest? Well, it was metadata that is very valuable, but it was being unused. So with this integration, what we wanted is to give you natively a way to make use of all of this information. For example, let's talk about the variables. Of course, you have the variables that emerge from the payload itself, which varies from device to device. But how about the RSSI, for example, the signal to noise ratio? How about the hotspots? It's very important. Imagine you have a customer that's telling you, hey, the water tank measurement stopped working at 3 a.m. last morning. What can you tell me about that? So you would go to your hotspots variable, and you have this metadata, so you can check actually what happened. Maybe one of your hotspots stopped running. Maybe the signal to noise ratio was too low and it didn't work. So now, making use of this, same with the frame counter, it's a variable that we are also sending natively. So you can detect if a frame counter, the increment is not right. Maybe it's because you lost a few packets. And there you go, you have something actionable to build from that variable. Now, in terms of the device, it's a very similar story. So usually you would just take a unique identifier. Now we're taking from Helium, which is, I forgot to mention, well, for those of you who might not be familiar, on the left, I'm showing the JSON schema from Helium. So imagine the having to go through Helium every time you wanted to know whether, which dev address or which app EUI belongs to a device. We'll pull in all of this and put it into Ubidots device properties, API labels, tags, and even getting the native name. So without further ado, let's move to the demo. So right now, I am here at the Helium Console and getting a few packets. I'm going to do a shameless promotion here. Thank you to the Rack Wireless team, because they were very kind enough to provide a WISBlock environmental sensors for this demo. And
absolutely.
Help in the setup. I'm sure Travis has similar stories to tell. So here you can see where data is flowing in. So, and Travis, by the way, feel free to jump in with any questions so we can make this also a conversations. And
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate it. And just one thing to call out here, as these payloads are coming through, there's a debug console, the little bug on the right, that you can open up and get the live data coming through that we're seeing from that particular device.
Awesome.
But go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's probably every 30 seconds. So yeah, we would have to wait, but I agree that's very useful when it comes to decoding. So now onto the integration. Here we have a new icon. That's the Ubidots icon. And when you click on it, it's going to ask you for an account token. Now in Ubidots, and a token is the way to interact with our API. So if I go to Ubidots, here is the fundamental unit of Ubidots, which is a device. If you go to the upper right in your account, click on API credentials, click on more, you'll have an interface where you can create more and more tokens. Now, you could get away with just using the default token of the account. I always recommend to create a specific token just for the Helium integration. This makes you have more control over the rate limit. And also, well, in case it gets compromised, you can change it for another one. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the token here and paste it in the Helium console. Back to Ubidots, just so you know, under the devices section, here's the new plugins model we were talking about. Here you will see a few plugins I had already created prior to the demo to just get my account up and running with a few data sets, with a few data points. And also the actual integration that's working right now. What happens when you click here, get webhook URL, is that, and here's where the partnership comes in. We made handshakes. We were doing some things under the hood that already provision an entire plugin in Ubidots. So if I refresh this page, you should see a new integration over here, which is exactly, if I click on it and go to the decoder, you will see that this URL 5582 is the same URL that we're getting here. So at the end, all we're doing is we're allowing Helium to create HTTP type integration using the webhook URL. Now, the cool thing about this is that this is your URL. Imagine you just created an API in just one click. It's not something that you're sharing across thousands of users. It's your URL where you can deploy your own decoder and use all the libraries that Ben was talking about. I'm not going to finish the entire process. As you know, here is one integration that I already created. It's already working. I'm going to leave it running. But if I click on the integration I already created, you can see it's basically an HTTP integration that's doing a post request to a plugin. Now, let's go back to the actual...
Quick question, real quick, if you don't mind here.
Sure.
Over on the Helium console, there is a downlink URL.
Yes.
And that's something that you kind of automatically pull in on the Ubidots side in the metadata. So it doesn't have to be configured on your end whatsoever, right?
Yeah, at this moment, so we using a feature that we have is called Ubidots events. It is possible for you to create a logic that triggers a webhook, and then I'm just going to give you an example here. If the air quality index is greater than 100, I think that's the limit for human health, then you can create a downlink, which is trigger a webhook, and then create the JSON request that you need to create a downlink in Helium. So this is technically possible, but for the second version of this integration, we're looking to do a native Helium logo type downlink integration. But yes, this is something that can already be used within the decoder or within Ubidots.
I got you. Thanks, man.
Awesome. So let's dive into the decoding function. As Ben said, it's basically an environment where you can you have control over the code. Here, as you can see, I'm importing just one library, which is the base64 library. Again, we used WizBlock environmental sensors, and based on their data sheet, and of course the support from RAC, we were able to decode these bytes and basically know exactly what a temperature is, what the humidity is, the pressure and gas.
And this is the Python we were discussing earlier?
Yeah, this is in Python. And for those of you who might be concerned about existing decoders already in Node.js, it's very simple. This was almost a copy-paste. I might have erased a few parentheses, but it's a very similar language when it comes to byte handling. So don't worry about that. And then here is all the logic that we're doing to grab the RSSI and SNR from the hotspots. You could as well just erase it. And to test, similar to your debugging function, Travis, we also have something called the logs, which allows you to see exactly what's coming in. So here, the plugin is logging. This is, as you can see, this is the JSON schema that you're sending. And then at the end is the response that we're sending to Ubidots. Well, the plugin sends to Ubidots API, and now these are the results. Very helpful if you want to do decoding. Coding nowadays is more a trial and error process than a deterministic one. So I personally love to just do a lot of prints all over the place and check the logs to see if I messed up, and then back to save and deploy over here. So let's see how it looks like once data arrives. So if I go to devices, you will see here a new device that it's called the Helium, WizBlock Environmental Sensor number 2. If I click on it, you will immediately see all of the variables that are receiving data. Frame counter, as we said, this is the gas sensor, which is actually an air quality index. According to Helium, we will have to check their documentation because RSSI, etc. So a few things come to mind immediately. First is there's no location, right? In theory, if I had a GPS device, this is not a GPS device, so it's not reporting any lat and long. But if it were a GPS device, it would automatically show up where it is right here. Because it's a static device, I can go ahead and select a manual location mode and set the location myself. So I'm going to, just for the sake of the demo, I'm just going to drop the pin in the middle of the US, although I know it's way colder out there than variables we're seeing here. And then another thing that comes to mind is, well, why are these orange and why are these like with a prettier format? So that's one of the great things we built for this integration was that to make use of a feature is called device types. So I'm going to jump in a device type. So a device type is basically a template of your devices. Imagine you're doing a deployment of 100 temperature and humidity sensors. It's no point of going one by one, changing the name or changing the variables or assigning units. So your plugin will automatically create a device type. Now, device type is indeed a feature that is in our paid plans. So just know that will be kind of the caveat. But it allows you to set the default device colors, even device icons, use different properties if you want to maybe add like a relational layer of a metadata layer of your deployment, city, country, you name it. And here are those variables that we just saw in a different color. So let's format the humidity variable, which has capital H as opposed to just the APL label. it's a percentage. Oops, sorry. And let's give it a nicer icon. There's a bunch of things you can do as well, more advanced.
And then these changes propagate down through any devices that are part of that device type?
Great question, because it happens a lot. So maybe you discover device types after you had a POC running of 10 devices. So yeah, you can apply it backwards, and it also will apply in the future. So any new device that you connect to Helium will now be converted into this device type and inherit all this template. So back to the device. You see the humidity variable just changed for something nicer. Having the unit is super important for the dashboards, and well, that's most of what we have in terms of devices. I have a very nice dashboard that I prepared for the demo, but before I jump in, Travis, do you have any other questions you want to address right now?
And you're killing it. This is great information here. I think it's fantastic for everyone to understand like how powerful using Python is for the decoding and being able to integrate with these stat libraries and other analysis libraries. One thing that you also make it very easy to do is if you want to convert between like Fahrenheit and centigrade, for example. The Ubidots system makes this very easy.
Yes, indeed. We also have, well, you could do it in the decoder. You can do the conversion in the decoder. You could also do it using a feature that I'm a big fan of, which is synthetic variables. IoT has a lot of interactions between sensors. Maybe imagine you have power. Imagine you have voltage and current. You had to multiply them to get the power, and then you had to do a sum over each hour to get the energy. We all know this formula. So these kind of computations are very easy to do using something called synthetic variables, where you just use a variable and do like an equation. So imagine temperature would be something like this minus 32, I think it is, divided by or times 5, something like that. I'm not sure if it's degrees to Fahrenheit or the other way, but just for the sake of the demo, it's a very simple way to create a computation of a time series, a very powerful one as well.
No, that's very cool. So, that's neat.
Yeah, it's used way more than we think, and the users get very creative with the formulas. Sometimes they have their own linear regressions of things, of equations that they know how to adjust to a curve. So it's very cool. So back to the dashboards. So we could spend hours going through each widget. So what we did was to create a dashboard of the temperature in some major US cities. As you can see here, I can click on each one of them, and it's going to pull me historical data for the last 7 days, or I think the last couple of days since we turned it on. Wind rows, you got even current conditions, dew point, feels like, you got gauges, you got histograms, for example, so you can see the change in temperature distribution or any other variable, really. So the thing that concerns us most today is the whisk block. So here we created a line chart, but it's tied to the variables of the whisk block. So as you can see already, the humidity inherited the units that we just set. Very important. So in the map, same thing. You could, in theory, add a new marker group where I can select a device to set our device in the demo. Let's give it the device icon. You can do device color logic. So imagine maybe changing the color of the device based on where a specific variable that it has. And well, didn't show up for some reason. But if you look here, you can do the color logic without problem. So you can do, if the temperature is between 0 and 30, then show me the icon in this color and play with it to create an entire monitoring dashboard for either you or one of your clients.
Very cool. Very cool, man.
Cool. So I think this is most of the things we have for today. Let's use the time we have to answer some of the questions from the audience.
I'll start us off here. I've got a question. What happens, or what is the process when, from the Helium side, I add a new device? Like if I added a new weather device into this dashboard here from the Helium side, a new unique device. Okay,
so one of the powerful things from the Helium console, personally, I think the labels are very cool. It's a very clever way to link entities with each other. So the first thing you would do is to link your device with the label that is linked to your integration. So what I would do is to tinker with it first, make sure it works, see it here, give it a name, troubleshoot. And then at the very end, once you're certain that the device is installed on site and it has the right sensors connected, I would add the label that is linked to the Ubidots integration. And that way you should immediately see it in the devices. So if I click here, well, actually, I don't know if you remember at the beginning, we only had one of these, I think, or a few minutes ago. You see now we have two. So here you can see the entire name. We have two. So it's very cool because it's automatically created. So there's no need to come here, create a new device, or provision it through the API whatsoever. It automatically will populate all of the devices that you send us from Helium.
No, that's awesome. That's very powerful. And because on Helium side of things, you can script or you can automate, onboarding devices. And, doing that on Helium side, those will, propagate over to Ubidots and you'll have all your devices over there. That's very cool stuff, man.
Thanks. The credit goes to all of our team and you guys for the collaboration.
Can you switch to the presentation for us to share with you the discounts and what we have prepared? Perfect. So thank you, Agustín, for the demo. So guys, this is for you. And as a fun fact, we've had already around 40 people using the plugin. So it's only been a week. So that's a great news. So first, if you're wondering how to start, well, you have to create your account in the Helium console. As Travis mentioned before, you're gonna have almost 10,000 free data credits. So after that, you should go to Ubidots and create a free account. I'm gonna drop the link here in the chat. It's very easy. Can you switch slides, please? Perfect. So we have a free trial. It's 30 days. You can test the platform completely with all of our features. And finally, we created some discounts. So if you're interested, keep going with your IoT solution. So first, we're offering $50 on your account. And if you do decide to upgrade to our paid licenses, we're offering a 75% discount on our professional plan. So this is one of our best licenses to have your white label and your end users in order to just deploy the IoT solutions to your end users. It's very easy. You reach out to partners at ubidots.com. That's me. I will be the one addressing anybody interested in accessing these discounts. So yeah, that was it. Thank you. And please feel free to just leave us some questions. We're here to answer them, or reach out at our emails, Travis or supporter partners at Ubidots.
Thank you very much, Cristina. So does anyone have questions?
I think we just have one from Lucas. Going back when you mentioned we can export the Ubidots platform data to AWS using Python, what benefits could come from this export to the user?
Sure. Let me address that, Lucas. Thank you for the question. So AWS is also one of our partners. We are official advanced partners, technology partners of AWS. And we're also working with them to create an even more seamless integration to bring data from AWS IoT to Ubidots and also to backup data from Ubidots to AWS. Based on a lot of customers' requests, by the way. One use case is people want to have their data stored in S3, on a regular basis, just for backup purposes. Another is might want to store it in AWS TimeStream as a way to also backup, but then not in a plain file, but in a database. You might also want to use their analytics tools to create like more advanced reports that the ones you might get away with while using Ubidots. You might want to connect with external third-party services as well. So at the end, is our design mantra is all about giving you control. So we don't want to keep your data or keep you away from doing other interesting stuff in other places. It's giving you control, and this is a sign of that.
And if I could add on to that as well, I mean, there are obviously hundreds of services on AWS that you now have access to, but because we're talking about time series data here, it can get large. It can get large to maintain, and you don't always need the granularity from a year ago. And so you could use a service like Glacier to put that into a service that you're not going to access as frequently, but your data is available there, and your costs are much lower that way.
Exactly.
We have another question coming through. Let's see. About application branding for end IoT solutions. This is from Maria.
Yeah, well, thank you, Maria, for bringing this up. It's a very common question as well. I can go real quick now that I'm sharing screens. It's really our bread and butter. People love the dashboards, and we also do. But if you ask me, the main reason why Ubidots is more than an IoT platform is because we're not just about the dashboards or alerts. It's about IoT entrepreneurship. It's giving you the power. It's giving you superpowers to become an entrepreneur. A lot of the use cases that we hear are about entrepreneurs who tinkered with something. They discovered they were solving a problem for themselves, and suddenly they realized they could solve another problem for an entire industry and become entrepreneurs by charging $20 per device per month. And in a year, true story, they could become larger than we are. So it's like a very exciting thing to do, and that's why we put a lot of weight in this. What I'm showing here, the white labeling, is really creating your own web application, your own domain. You can set a domain here. You can choose your own branding. You can put your own colors. You can segment so that only some of your clients can see this, and some of devices are segmented across different clients. So I really encourage you to test that, Maria. You can, if you already have a STEM account, maybe you can create a trial account, which is a free 30-day trial of our industrial license, where you can experiment with all these features.
I would add something, and this is very powerful because you can offer a customized IoT platform to your end users. So we have cases where they pay Ubidots $1 per device, but as you are the one after the end user providing support and doing everything, you can mark it up at will. And this is how Ubidots becomes very profitable in an IoT business model perspective.
So I've got another question for you. So why are you excited about Helium and about working, with a Helium system?
Okay, well, let me take that because one of the first things I saw is, well, we also hear a lot about cryptos. We all hear about big data, and then on the other corner, IoT. It's really kind of separate islands at the moment. So I think Helium is sort of a unique intersection among getting the best out of all of these technologies, data management, cryptocurrencies, and creating a network. I think it's just a very unique business model that for me as a maker, as an entrepreneur, it's something that I have a lot of respect for and admire. And then, of course, once we got into the nuts and bolts and create everything, it's just, usually connectivity is one of the issues why IoT projects don't succeed. You need to manage SIM cards, you need to manage providers, pay for it. And the reason that we can dream about a network, nationwide network, or even worldwide network, where you can ship a device to a customer, he can just open it up, scan a QR code, and be up and running in a heartbeat. I think it's a very powerful thing to market and for the IoT business, for the IoT world.
And I would like to compliment it because I really admire how you're just transmitting a message that is so easy. Because even though you have a very robust product on the technical side, I love the marketing. I love how it's so friendly with the people. It's easy to understand. And ever since we started our communication, you have a great team that is very friendly and very proactive. So I personally just love working with this kind of like IoT companies because this is definitely an industry that is not like a winner takes it all. So it's just the quality of the people is very reflected in the product and the marketing.
Well, that's flattering. And we have absolutely enjoyed working with Ubidots and your team on this project. I'm very excited about Ubidots from the Helium perspective because developers on the Helium network a lot of times haven't known what's the next step. Where do I go from here now that I have the sensor data coming in, right? How do I actually make a product out of this? How do I, how do I get dashboards? How do I get more analytics, operating on this sensor data? And I believe that, you folks have designed a brilliant solution here. And I love how easy the integration now is with the two companies.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another question here about what is the difference between Ubidots and Ubidots STEM?
Sure. So in Ubidots STEM, you get 3 devices for free. It has a limited feature set. It has the dashboards, it has alerts, and it has the time series storage of up to 3 months of data. So, and now it includes 1 plugin for free. So you can use something like Helium, for example. And then if you want to continue creating more plugins or creating more than 3 devices, then that's where Ubidots Industrial or Ubidots just comes in.
And also it's for non-commercial products. So we incentivize it at like makers, or as the real example is like the brewing your own beer at home. We have thousands of users doing that with an open source device. That was actually like a surprise for us. So that's the case. Like we empower people to just tinker at home and do IoT stuff. But if you're planning on doing like commercial projects, the like paid tier is like ideal for your solution. So we have 2 more questions. Where would you go for further training? That's a good question. So we are, we have everything on our documentation. It's on our help center. We have hundreds of just how to do stuff. So definitely just our help center. We have videos. And of course, just create a trial and try to do it on your own. We have a lot of like guides. Also, our support team is very active. We're here to guide you. Like we're friendly and we're a real person like under a computer. So yeah, that's the best way. The email for discounts is partners@ubidots.com. So let me put it here in the chat again. And we're happy to follow that direction as well. Partners.
Just to tack on here, on the Helium side of things, if you go to docs.helium.com, we have a completely new documentation system, and it will help get you up on our system. I've got to do a shameless plug here. I know that we were talking about the rack environmental sensor earlier and the WizBlock. We have a new Helium developer kit with rack that will be coming out in very short order. And that's what we've been using as the test device for this demonstration here. And I hold it in very high regard. So I had to plug that in here.
Me too.
I'm going to answer a question. It's from Mike. When white labeling, can the synthetic variable equation be hidden? Yes, you can hide this. Actually, you have a whole module of users where you can provide permissions. So they can only, like, for instance, see the dashboards or change data or add devices or delete stuff. But there's a whole module of permissions for your end users. So yeah, you can hide it.
Just showing real quick here. Can hide these variables. So those ones won't be visible to the end user.
And in the meantime, we should answer this one. Daniel, he created a STEM account, but he's wondering if he's limited to one device integration to Ubidots for now.
So no, you get 3 devices for free. So if you, for some reason, have 4 devices in your Helium account, then chances are you will hit a limit and you will only see 3 in your Ubidots account.
Yeah, most likely. Also, we had a question. It was if our platform support coding in PHP from John.
So I don't think exactly PHP, but now that you bring that up, it's a very common requirement to be able, I don't know if that's where it comes from, to be able to code your own widget, John. So we do have what we call an HTML canvas widget, which it's here. So you have an entire environment, like an editor where you can put your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And yeah, our users, whenever they cannot find something that they're looking for, they use like our HTML.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Can those be shared? Can those canvases be shared between users?
Yeah. Well, that's powerful. We want to extend the development center of plugins to widgets as well. So right now, it's a lot for, like, it's a private environment. Only your end users will be able to see your widgets. But we're working on a way to be able to share. So if you're a developer and you want to create an interesting widget for Ubidots community, then definitely reach out to Cristina as well, because we are creating a new development center that will allow you to build and share it at the same time.
That's cool, man. Very cool.
Yeah.
I have a last question. Do we have time, or should we close the session?
Yeah, we're right up against the end of the hour, but yeah, let's go ahead, please.
Okay, can downlinks be sent from Ubidots button or value to Helium, then to the end node? From Lauren.
Okay, Lauren, thank you for that. So imagine, remember we have our events model. So to do that, the whole, like a UX, to be able to push something, well, I can go back to the dashboards. You can create, imagine a button. So you can create a switch widget that updates a device, for example. Or I would have to create a new variable that it says a command, for example, or downlink signal. And then in that downlink signal, you want to send something. So send downlink, for example. So here is, you're basically simulating data in Ubidots. It's just create, like sending 1 or 0 to a variable. So what you do in the events engine side, you can choose the variable that you are controlling. In this case, is the port variable, but it could be something specific. And when it is equal to 1, Then you create a webhook with the downlink URL from Helium. And then here you can build a JSON schema that Helium needs to understand in order to schedule a downlink to the device. So yes, technically it's possible, but again, we want to work on a more seamless integration for downlinks as well to make this process even simpler.
But you could use this, for example, to change modes of an end node or change like transmission rates from the dashboard.
Yeah. Even there's a version of that widget that allows you to enter like a specific number. So it's a manual input widget. So you can also just change something. Imagine that same thing, that same variable we were controlling, but instead of just a button, you can create an input. So here I input a value, but you can also input properties, context. So even if it's a key value pair or something like this, you could also do it as well.
Very cool. We have another question I'd like to address here. Can I export a link to a graph chart from Ubi dashboard to appear in a web page and have that update automatically?
Yeah, so there's two ways of doing this. So on a per widget basis, you could share the widget over here. So you can just copy paste this, or if you're talking about a website, you can use an iframe and just embed it. Or you could do it at the dashboard level as well. Yeah. Here. So for security purposes, we don't have it like native, but if I create a link, then you can embed to the website or share the link. And that's the way to go.
Perfect. I think that we can just then close the session. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Yeah.
Ubidots team, thank you very much for joining us on this webinar. This has been a great process working with all of you, getting this integration up, live, and running. And I'm excited to see everything that's created out of this integration.
Thank you so much, Travis, and all the Helium team for the work. We're super excited as well. And please, everybody, feel free to reach out and provide some feedback and just ask for the coupon codes.
Absolutely. And this video will be up on YouTube shortly. And we'll get links out to everyone. So everyone have a great day. Stay safe, and talk to you next time.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.